The stakes were so high. He would take her back to the apartment with him. There, he could question her at leisure and decide what to do without having to worry about Mammon or his henchmen discovering them. But what were the odds of her going along with him willingly? Well, he couldn't worry about that now. He'd simply take her. The night had grown dark enough that he didn't bother heading for the roof exit. Instead, he walked to the side of the building facing the narrow alleyway and stepped off. He landed the 6-story fall with a thud that shook the ground. A cracking sound, followed by a twinge of pain shooting up his right leg, made him pause, but he ignored it as the fissure healed itself. The homeless man, lying unconscious in a puddle not 10 feet away, mumbled and stirred, before growing still once again. Keegan crossed the street, his gaze single-mindedly locked on the figure of the woman visible through the window as she buzzed about the front of the gallery. A ray of light from a small lamp decorating the window caught her hair, spinning it into a web of gold. In that lighting, she looked almost like an angel. But why was he thinking about the color of her hair? She wasn't an angel. Not by a long shot. And her luck was about to run out. Brynn Meyers stifled a yawn as she tidied up the eclectic space of her showroom floor. With its old furniture and traditional chandeliers, the space more closely resembled an antique shop than an art gallery. She'd started it several years ago with the inheritance she received following her father's death from a car accident, just a short time after her mother died of breast cancer. It seemed like she spent every waking moment there. If she wasn't working, she was painting in her small studio located in the back. Just 2 hours of painting tonight, then I'll go to sleep early for a change, she told herself. This time I mean it. God, how pathetic was she? Was she so lonely that she had to start bargaining with herself? No, not lonely, Brynn. Just a loner. There's a difference. Really, there was, even if, deep down inside, part of her wished she wasn't quite so alone. So unique. Her hand grazed the easel holding the painting that had arrived earlier today. She turned to examine it more closely. Created by her favorite artist, it drew her in because of the artist's tendency to incorporate unusual materials into his work, such as the tattered pieces of muslin glued to this painting. It was an amazing work of art, and the cloth was obviously old and worn. Brynn brushed her hand against the gathered fabric. Closing her eyes, she focused on the feel of it at her fingertips, on the shadows of memories that whispered to her, begging her to uncover them. The muslin yielded beneath her touch, revealing its deepest secrets. Her vision narrowed, focusing in on the fabric as its memories hurtled toward her. Several hundred years old, the painting began its journey to her as part of an elegant dress worn by a French woman. Images of the woman's trembling fingers flowed into Brynn's mind, and she smiled at the impressions of the woman smoothing the material down, eagerly anticipating a visit from her secret lover. Then, in a scene years later, someone tore apart the dress for scraps. Even later, the bits of fabric were twisted and crafted into a rag doll, cherished for many years by the little girl who lovingly slept with it, until she became too old for dolls. The flashes of memory faded away. Taking a deep breath, she slowly returned to the present. It's just a bit of fabric. She often had to remind herself of that. The memories embedded in inanimate objects tended to make them seem alive to her. But they weren't. They were just conduits for energy. And for some reason, she had the ability to sense this energy. This was a gift she'd had her whole life, and what had initially drawn her to art. Each piece had a story, an experience rooted within it. Older art pieces could be positively overwhelming. Of course, her so-called gift wasn't limited solely to art. There were times when it didn't seem like much of a gift at all, like when she discovered something she wasn't supposed to know. Case in point, when she'd touched her last boyfriend's cell phone.